He slid a marriage contract across the leather seat while rain erased the city outside. She fed a homeless man, but he owned half the city she lived in. Hello, everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please subscribe and tap the notification bell so you never miss a new cinematic love story. Are you watching from YouTube, Facebook, or Spotify? Let me know in the comments below. Now, let us go back to our main character. The rain was relentless that night, hammering against the windows of the black Mercedes as it glided through Manhattan's nearly empty streets. Inside, the air was heavy with silence. The smell of leather, faint perfume, and storm lingered between two people who should have never met. Lena Cruz sat rigid in the passenger seat, her coat damp, her hands twisted around a small purse that had seen better days. She watched the city lights smear across the glass like melting stars. The man beside her, Adrian Hale, barely glanced away from the road. His jaw was sharp, his voice calm, too calm. 3 months, he said. No love, no questions. You will attend 5 events by my side, and in return, I will cover your father's medical bills and the debt on your family's bakery. Lena blinked, unsure if she had heard him right. The rhythmic swipe of the wipers filled the pause. You are asking me to marry you, for business? Adrian's gaze finally met hers in the mirror's reflection. For necessity, he replied. The board wants proof of stability before the next merger. They respect a man with a wife. They pity a man without one. Her chest tightened. So you want a performance? I want control, he said simply. And you need a miracle. I am offering both. Lightning flashed outside, bathing the car in white for a split second. Lena saw the faint exhaustion behind his composed expression, a loneliness he tried to hide behind that perfect suit and those cold words. Still, everything about him screamed danger, money, power, reputation. I do not even know. You, she whispered. Good, he said. That makes it easier. Lena turned her face toward the window. Water streaked down like tears she refused to shed. Her father's voice echoed in her mind, the bakery, the overdue bills, the notice taped to their door. The world had already taken too much from her. Could she give up her name next? Adrian slid a pen toward her. Sign it, he murmured. It is only paper, Miss Cruz, not a promise. The pen trembled in her fingers. Maybe to you, Mr. Hale, but to me, everything still means something. He studied her, the corner of his mouth tightening, not amusement, not anger, something in between. The car slowed as the red glow of a traffic light washed over them. Outside, thunder rolled. Lena exhaled, her reflection ghost-like on the glass. Why me? Adrian's answer came without hesitation. Because you said no the first time I offered help at your café. Everyone else said yes. She looked at him then, truly looked the billionaire who could have anyone, choosing the one woman too proud to ask for rescue. The rain drummed harder, sealing them inside a world of silver and sound. Finally, she placed the pen on the line. 3 months, she said quietly. Adrian nodded once, eyes unreadable. Starting tonight. The car surged forward, headlights slicing through the storm, carrying 2 strangers bound not by love, but by desperation, and something neither of them dared to name. Yet. The next morning, sunlight pushed through the rain clouds, glinting off the city's glass towers. Lena stood by her apartment window, staring at the copy of the marriage contract still folded inside her purse. Her father's hospital bills lay open on the counter, the red stamps of final notice bleeding across the page. She had barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the reflection of Adrian Hale in the dim car, the calm certainty in his voice when he said, "Starting tonight." Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. A car will pick you up at 10. Bring identification. A. H. Lena pressed the phone against her chest, exhaling shakily. She had signed her name, but she had no idea what kind of life she had just entered. At exactly 10 o'clock, the same black Mercedes rolled up to her street. The driver, silent and formal, opened the back door. Lena slid in, the smell of leather and faint cologne washing over her. Adrian sat beside her, dressed in a charcoal suit, eyes hidden behind dark sunglasses. "You look nervous," he said, voice quiet but edged. "I am marrying a man I met 12 hours ago," she answered. "I think I am allowed to be nervous." He glanced her way, the faintest hint of a smirk tugging at his lips. "Do not overthink it. You are about to make headlines." The car glided through the security gates of a private courthouse. Inside, everything was efficient: 2 witnesses, a judge, a single signature each. The words husband and wife felt foreign, like lines in a play that neither actor fully understood. When it was over, Adrian slipped the ring onto her finger. It was simple, platinum, cold against her skin. Cameras flashed outside as soon as they stepped through the door. Paparazzi shouted his name, the sound of shutters like thunder. Adrian leaned close enough for only her to hear. "Smile. They feed on fear." She lifted her chin, smiled through the chaos, and let him guide her to the car waiting at the curb. The door shut, muting the noise to a distant hum. For a moment, only their breathing filled the space. "That was," she began. "A transaction," he finished. "Now it becomes a performance." They drove to the Hale penthouse overlooking Central Park. The building rose like a fortress of glass and steel. Inside, every surface gleamed. It did not feel like a home, it felt like a museum. A housekeeper greeted them with a polite nod. "Welcome back, Mr. Hale." "Mrs. Hale." The title struck Lena like a wave. She looked toward Adrian, but his expression was unreadable. "Your room is down the hall," he said. "Left side. The contract forbids sharing living quarters, remember?" "I remember," she replied, voice small. Hours passed. The city darkened again, lights flickering like stars beyond the enormous windows. Lena wandered the quiet halls, her footsteps echoing against marble. On a console table lay framed photographs: Adrian shaking hands with governors, standing at charity galas, always composed, never smiling. She paused at one photo of him beside a woman with kind eyes. The silver plaque read, "Evelyn Hale, beloved mother." The year beneath it showed she had passed only a year ago. So that was the emptiness she had seen in him. A soft knock startled her. Adrian stood in the doorway, sleeves rolled, tie loosened. The mask of the CEO had slipped, just a little. "You found her picture," he said quietly. "She looked kind," Lena replied. "She was," he said. "She would have hated this arrangement." Lena hesitated. "Then why do it?" He leaned against the doorframe, eyes distant. "Because every time I tried to build something real, it cost me everything. Control is safer." Outside, thunder rumbled again, echoing the night they met. Lena looked at him, truly seeing the man behind the empire. "Control is lonely, Mr. Hale." He met her gaze for a long moment, then turned away. "Get some rest, Mrs. Hale. Tomorrow, the world will expect us to look in love." As he walked down the hall, Lena touched the ring on her finger, the rain starting again beyond the windows. Somewhere in the sound of it, she wondered if she had signed her way into a prison or a story that might, against all odds, become something real. Morning light spilled through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the penthouse, catching on crystal and chrome. Lena woke to the quiet hum of the city below, the faint smell of coffee drifting through the hall. For a moment she forgot where she was, then the ring on her finger flashed, and the truth returned. Downstairs, Adrian was already at the long dining table, reading a tablet. His posture was precise, his expression unreadable. "Good morning, Mrs. Hale," he said without looking up. "Good morning," she replied softly, unsure where to stand. The table stretched between them like a border. He gestured to the breakfast laid-out croissants, fruit, eggs, everything arranged as if for a photo shoot. "Eat. You will need energy. The first public event is tonight." Lena sat carefully, the silverware too heavy in her hand. "What event?" "The Hale Foundation Gala," he said. "Our first appearance together. You will wear what my assistant sends upstairs. Speak little, smile when appropriate, and stay close." His tone was professional, cold, yet the smallest flicker of nerves crossed his face when he added, "I do not expect perfection. Just honesty when the cameras are off." Hours later, the penthouse transformed into preparation. A stylist, Makeup artist and photographer filled the space with light and movement. Dresses were draped, jewelry displayed, hair pinned and unpinned. Through it all, Lena stood still, trying to quiet the racing of her heart. When the makeup artist stepped aside, she barely recognized herself. The mirror reflected someone polished, graceful, someone who looked like she belonged in his world. Adrian appeared at the doorway, already dressed in a black tuxedo. For the first time, he seemed momentarily at a loss for words. "You clean up well," he said. Lena smiled faintly. "For a contract bride, I suppose that is a compliment." His lips curved slightly. "For anyone, it is a fact." The gala shimmered under chandeliers the size of small cars. Reporters lined the entrance, flashes lighting up the marble steps as the couple arrived. Adrian's hand rested at the long, small of her back, the gesture rehearsed yet unexpectedly steadying. Inside, music flowed from a live orchestra. Business partners, politicians, and celebrities floated through the room. Lena's nerves tightened until she could barely breathe. Then a woman with silver earrings and an expensive smile approached. "So this is the mysterious wife," she said. "I did not think Adrian was the marrying type." Lena forced a polite smile. "Neither did I." The woman laughed lightly and drifted away, leaving Adrian watching Lena with a new expression, surprise, maybe pride. "You handled that well," he murmured. "I have served customers worse than her," she said, sipping champagne that tasted like nerves. Later, during speeches, Adrian took the stage. His words were sharp, confident, the voice of a man who had built and controlled everything he touched. But when his gaze found her across the room, something softened. As applause filled the hall, he returned to her side. "One more interview, then we can leave." They walked toward the exit together, the crowd parting. Outside, rain began again, faint on the marble steps. The flash of cameras reflected in the puddles. In the car, silence settled like a sigh. Lena stared out the window. "You do this every night?" "Mostly," he said. "It is easier than being alone." She turned toward him. "You have a house full of people who work for you. You are not alone, Adrian." He shook his head. "That is not the same thing." The traffic lights bled red across his face, softening the lines of power. "You did well tonight," he said quietly. "Thank you." "For pretending?" "For showing up," he replied. "That is more than most people do." The car slowed in front of the penthouse. Neither moved to get out. The sound of rain filled the space again, familiar, rhythmic, almost safe. Lena looked at him and said softly, "Maybe pretending is how something real begins." Adrian met her eyes, the reflection of city lights flickering between them, and for the first time, he did not correct her. The storm outside raged on, but inside the car, a different kind of silence grew, one that felt dangerously close to truth. The morning after the gala, the city seemed quieter, washed clean by the night's rain. Lena sat at the long kitchen counter, still in her robe, sipping coffee that had long gone cold. Her phone buzzed with notifications, articles, photos, headlines that read, "Hale's mysterious bride steals the spotlight." She scrolled through the comments, speculation about her background, her dress, even the way she smiled. Some called her elegant, others called her lucky, too many called her unworthy. The sound of footsteps pulled her back. Adrian entered, crisp in a gray suit, phone pressed to his ear. His voice was sharp, impatient. "Cancel the follow-up interview. I do not owe anyone explanations." He ended the call and looked at her. "Ignore the noise," he said. "They always tear down what they do not understand." Lena closed her phone. "It is hard to ignore when the noise is about me." He paused, as if wanting to say something more, but instead checked his watch. "I have a meeting downtown. Dinner tonight, 8 o'clock. Be ready." The door shut behind him, leaving a silence that felt heavier than before. Hours later, the penthouse felt too large. She wandered to the balcony overlooking Central Park. The sky was clear now, the city alive with motion. From here, everything looked small, manageable. Yet inside her chest, everything felt too big. When she turned, she saw the grand piano near the corner polished, untouched. A single sheet of music sat on the stand. The notes were unfinished, ending mid-line, as if someone had stopped halfway through. Curious, Lena touched the keys. The soft sound filled the room like a memory. She did not hear Adrian return until his voice broke the silence. "You play." Lena froze, fingers hovering above the keys. "A little. My mother taught me before she passed." Adrian walked closer, his tone unreadable. "My mother used to play that piece. She never finished it either." Their eyes met, something unspoken passing between them. "Maybe you can finish it now," she said gently. He smiled, faint and fleeting. "Maybe." For a long moment, they stood there, surrounded by light and the quiet echo of music that never quite faded. That evening, dinner was waiting when she came downstairs, candlelight softening the edges of the vast dining room. Adrian poured wine, his movements deliberate. "To surviving our first gala," he said. She raised her glass. "And to surviving the comments section." He laughed, genuinely this time. The sound was low, surprising, almost warm. "You handled yourself better than most executives I know." "I worked in customer service," she said. "People underestimate how cruel strangers can be." His eyes softened. "You are stronger than you look." The compliment settled somewhere deep, leaving her unsure how to respond. She looked down, tracing the rim of her glass. "You do not have to be kind, you know. The contract does not require it." "I know," he said quietly. "But maybe I want to be." Silence followed, but it was different now, less guarded, more fragile. After dinner, Adrian walked her to her room. "We have another event tomorrow," he said. "A board meeting at the tower. You will sit beside me, speak only if addressed." "Understood," she replied. He turned to leave, then stopped. "Lena," he said softly, "for what it is worth, you make this arrangement feel less empty." Her breath caught. She wanted to answer, but the words tangled in her throat. When the door closed, she pressed a hand to her chest, feeling the echo of something she did not dare name. Outside, rain began again, soft against the glass, as if the city itself remembered their first night in the car. Somewhere beneath the steady rhythm of the storm, a fragile truth was beginning to take shape, one neither of them was ready to admit, but both could feel all the same. The next day arrived with a cold wind sweeping across the city. Lena followed Adrian through the towering glass doors of HaleCorp headquarters. Cameras flashed, employees whispered, and somewhere deep inside, she wondered how long she could keep pretending this was only business. The boardroom sat on the top floor, overlooking Manhattan. 12 executives waited around a sleek table. Adrian's presence filled the space like gravity. He motioned for her to sit beside him, calm but commanding. "Gentlemen, this is Mrs. Hale," he said evenly. "From today forward, she will attend all executive events with me." Murmurs circled the table. One of the older men, sharp suit, colder eyes, smiled without warmth. "Congratulations, Mr. Hale. Though some of us might question the timing." Adrian's gaze hardened. "My personal life is not up for review, Mr. Grant." The man leaned back. "Of course not, as long as it does not affect company interests." The room tensed. Lena's fingers tightened around her pen. She felt every stare like a weight. When the meeting ended, Adrian's jaw was rigid, his silence sharper than any words. Back in the elevator, she finally spoke. "They do not believe this marriage is real." "They do not need to," he said. "They only need to believe I am still in control." She looked at him, seeing the strain behind his eyes. "You cannot control everything." His reply came low, almost to himself. "That is what people say before they lose everything." That evening, the penthouse felt heavier than ever. Adrian paced near the windows, phone pressed to his ear, voice cold with anger. "You told the press we met at a charity gala? That was not part of the plan. I said no, personal. Stories." He paused, listening, then hung up and slammed the phone onto the counter. Lena flinched at the sound. "What happened?" "Someone from the board leaked it," he said. "They want to discredit me before the merger. Then let them see something they cannot discredit," she said softly. "Something real." He looked at her, brow furrowed. "You think I can just show up and smile my way through this?" "I think," she said, "you can stop fighting me like I am your enemy." The words hung in the air. For a long moment, neither moved. Then Adrian exhaled slowly. "You are right." He walked to the piano, resting a hand on the polished edge. "My mother used to say that power means nothing if it cannot protect what you love. I never understood it until you." Lena's chest tightened. "Adrian." But he shook his head, almost afraid to let her answer. "Tomorrow there is a charity event. It will be chaos. They will question us, provoke us. But if we stand together, if we act like we actually care, maybe the noise will stop." She nodded. "Then let us give them something to believe in." The next night, the ballroom glowed under golden light. Photographers lined the carpet as Adrian and Lena entered hand in hand. She wore a deep blue gown that shimmered like calm water. He looked every bit the untouchable billionaire. But beneath the facade, their hearts beat the same uneven rhythm. A reporter called out, "Mr. Hale, your wife seems to have softened your reputation. Would you say marriage has changed you?" Adrian glanced at Lena, then back at the cameras. "It has reminded me that even the strongest walls can fall when someone knocks gently enough." The room went quiet. Lena turned to him, startled by the honesty in his voice. For a brief second, the contract between them no longer mattered. The act had become something dangerously close to truth. Later, in the car, silence filled the space again. But this time, it was peaceful. Adrian looked at her and said quietly, "For the first time, I did not feel like I was performing." She smiled faintly, eyes reflecting the city lights. "Maybe neither of us was." Outside, the rain began once more, soft and steady against the glass, just like the night everything began. If this fake marriage universe pulls you in, subscribe now so you never miss the next chapter. The night of the charity event lingered in Lena's mind long after they returned to the penthouse. She stood by the tall window, watching the reflection of city lights ripple through the rain. Her heart was still racing from what Adrian had said in front of the cameras. Even the strongest walls can fall when someone knocks gently enough. Those words were not part of any contract. Across the room, Adrian loosened his tie and poured himself a drink. "You did well tonight," he said quietly. "They will not be able to question us after that." Lena turned to him. "You sounded sincere, Adrian. Were you acting?" He met her eyes over the rim of his glass. "I do not know anymore." The rain outside softened, leaving only the faint hum of the city below. Lena crossed the room and set her hand on the piano. "Play something," she said. "Finish what your mother started." Adrian hesitated, then sat down. His fingers touched the keys, slow at first, then steadier, as a melody filled the room. It was unfinished but beautiful, fragile like everything between them. Lena watched him, the man the world called ruthless, now playing music with eyes closed and heart open. When the final note faded, she whispered, "You should not hide this part of you." He looked up, something raw, flickering behind his calm. "And you should not be the one who sees it." Before she could answer, his phone buzzed on the counter. The screen flashed with a name she did not recognize, Grant. Adrian's expression hardened. He answered, voice clipped. "What do you want?" Lena could only hear fragments, words like contract, exposure, merger. Then, his tone changed cold, controlled, dangerous. "If you leak that, you destroy everything." When he hung up, his knuckles were white around the phone. "Adrian, what happened?" she asked. "Someone knows about us," he said. "They have copies of the marriage agreement. If they release it, the board will vote me out. Can you stop them?" "I can try," he said, "but it will get ugly." Lena took a step closer. "Then let me help." He shook his head. "No, you have already done enough. This was supposed to protect you, not drag you into my war." Her voice steadied. "I am already in it. Whether we admit it or not, this is not just your fight." Something in her words made him pause. He stared at her, the mask of control cracking just enough for her to see the fear beneath. "If you stay, you might lose everything," he said. She lifted her chin. "Then I will lose it beside you." Silence. Then, slowly, Adrian reached for her hand. His touch was firm, almost hesitant. "You are impossible," he murmured. "Maybe," she said softly, "but you signed the same contract I did." A small smile tugged at his lips, the first real one she had ever seen. Remind me to write better clauses next time. The tension between them shifted, no longer cold or distant but charged with something unspoken. The next morning they faced the storm together. The tabloids ran rumors of a scandal. The company's stock trembled. Yet every time Lena stepped beside Adrian at a meeting, the room quieted. She spoke with calm strength, deflecting questions, grounding him when his temper threatened to break. After one particularly brutal press conference, they returned to the car in silence. Rain streaked across the windshield, the city lights blurred again into silver lines. Adrian turned to her. "You did not have to defend me. Like that." Lena looked at him. "I did not do it for you. I did it because I believe you are not the man they think you are." He stared at her for a long moment, the sound of rain filling the space between them. Then he said, almost in disbelief, "You really believe that? I would not be here if I did not." The car rolled forward through the wet streets, two strangers no longer pretending, caught somewhere between duty and something dangerously close to love. Outside, thunder echoed against the skyline, and inside the car, for the first time, neither of them looked away. 2 days later, the storm Adrian had feared finally arrived. The morning headlines screamed across every screen in New York, "Leaked, Adrian Hale's fake marriage contract." Lena woke to the sound of her phone vibrating non-stop. Her stomach dropped as she read the articles. Images of their wedding at the courthouse were everywhere, splashed beside words like fraud, deception, and scandal. When she walked into the living room, Adrian was already there, pacing near the window, his phone pressed to his ear. His voice was low but tense. "I said handle it quietly. No statements yet. We cannot let them control the narrative." He hung up and turned toward her. "You saw it?" "Yes," she said quietly. "It is everywhere." "They will call for my resignation by noon," he said. "The board will not protect me this time." "What can we do?" He rubbed a hand over his face. "Nothing legal. The contract is real. The leak is real. Everything they are saying is true." Lena felt a sting in her chest. "Then they will think I was just after your money." His eyes softened. "I do not care what they think about me. But I will not let them destroy you." Before she could respond, the intercom buzzed. The building's security guard's voice came through. "Mr. Hale, reporters have gathered outside the main entrance. Do you want us to block them?" Adrian's shoulders tensed. "No, let them see me." Minutes later, he was in his car, driving straight to the HaleCorp tower. Lena tried to follow, but his driver insisted she stay behind. She watched him disappear into the rain, fear twisting inside her. By the time she reached the building on her own, chaos had erupted. Cameras flashed, voices shouted questions, and police lined the entrance. Through the glass doors, she saw Adrian standing before the board, every face cold, unreadable. She slipped past the crowd just as the meeting broke. One of the directors slammed a folder onto the table. "You have humiliated this company, Hale. We are calling an emergency vote." Adrian's voice was steady. "Then vote. But understand something, you will not bury the truth by burying me." The room went silent. Then, to everyone's surprise, Lena stepped forward. "This was my decision too," she said clearly. "You can blame me if you want, but this man never lied about who he was. I agreed to that contract because I was desperate, but I stayed because I saw the kind of leader you could never replace." The board members exchanged uneasy glances. Adrian stared at her, stunned. "Lena," he whispered, but she did not stop. "If you think love can be written in a contract, you do not understand love at all." Her words hung in the air like thunder before a storm. And for the first time, Adrian realized she had done something he never could. She had told the truth, even when it cost her everything. The boardroom erupted into a storm of whispers. Cameras from the hallway caught flashes of movement through the glass. Adrian stood frozen for a moment, staring at Lena as if seeing her for the first time. Her voice still echoed in the vast room, steady and unafraid. The chairman cleared his throat. "Mr. Hale, you have 30 minutes before the vote. If you wish to make a final statement, this is your chance." Adrian looked around the table, then at Lena. "There will be no vote," he said. His voice was calm now, almost too calm. He turned toward the cameras just outside the open door. If the world wants the truth, they can have it. He stepped into the hall where a crowd of reporters waited. Microphones thrust forward, flashes exploding like lightning. Lena followed, her heart pounding. Adrian faced the cameras. "Yes," he said firmly, "the contract was real. I created it because I was afraid to lose control of my company, afraid to show weakness. But this woman," he paused, glancing at Lena, "taught me that control means nothing if it costs you your soul." The reporters shouted questions, but he kept speaking over the noise. "I resign from my position effective immediately. The Hale Foundation will continue under new leadership. I will dedicate my time to rebuilding what I broke trust." The flashes intensified. Lena felt tears rise but held them back. Adrian turned to her, his voice softer now. "I will not let them drag you through this any longer. You deserve a life untouched by my mistakes." Lena shook her head. "Do not decide that for me." He looked at her, regret dark in his eyes. "This is the only way I know to protect you." The elevator doors opened, and before she could speak, he stepped inside. The metal doors closed between them, leaving her staring at her own reflection, his absence louder than the chaos around her. Days passed. The scandal slowly burned out. Articles shifted from outrage to fascination. The billionaire who gave it all up. HaleCorp's stocks wavered but stabilized under new management. The world moved on, but Lena could not. The penthouse felt empty, every sound echoing in the spaces he once filled. One evening, she found a sealed envelope on the piano. Her name was written in his handwriting. Inside was a single key and a note, for the place where everything began. Rain began to fall as she drove through the city streets, the same rhythm as that night in the car. The key fit the door to the Mercedes parked in the private garage. On the passenger seat lay a small velvet box and another note. "It was never fake, not for me." Tears blurred her vision. The box held a simple silver ring, identical to the one she had worn for the contract, but this one engraved inside with the words, "No terms, no end." Lena pressed the ring to her heart. For the first time, she realized the truth he had left her to find. Some promises do not need signatures, they only need faith. Weeks passed before Lena saw him again. The city had settled into winter, the streets dusted with snow, and the story that once consumed headlines had faded into whispers. She had returned to working at her family's bakery, the same small shop that smelled of cinnamon and fresh bread, the place where her life had started before Adrian Hale turned it upside down. Every morning she opened the doors at dawn, and every evening she watched strangers pass by the window, wondering if he ever looked back. She wore no jewelry, but the new ring sat safely in her pocket, a secret she could not let go. One cold afternoon, as she arranged pastries in the display case, the bell above the door chimed. She looked up and froze. Adrian stood there, wearing a long coat dusted with snow, no security detail, no expensive car waiting outside. Just him. His eyes met hers, unsure, searching. "I did not know if you would still be here," he said quietly. Lena exhaled, her heartbeat quick and uneven. "You left without saying goodbye. I thought walking away was the only way to fix what I broke," he said. "But the truth is, nothing worked without you." She stepped closer, her hands trembling. "Why now?" He smiled faintly. "Because I kept hearing rain every night, even when the sky was clear. It reminded me of the car, of the moment everything changed." Lena's throat tightened. "That night. Feels like another lifetime." "Then let us start a new one," he said. He reached into his pocket and placed the silver ring on the counter. "No contracts. No lies. Only if you still want this." Her eyes filled with tears as she picked up the ring. "You gave up everything, Adrian." "I did," he said, "but I found something better." Outside, snow began to fall harder, turning the city into a quiet world of white. Lena slipped the ring onto her finger, and for the first time, it felt right. He smiled, a real one this time. "I still owe you coffee, Mrs. Hale." She laughed softly. "You can start by helping me close the bakery." Together they flipped the sign on the door to closed. The smell of warm bread filled the air, and somewhere beyond the frosted glass, The city lights shimmered like distant stars. In the same world that once judged them, they found peace not in wealth or status, but in the simple act of choosing each other. If you want more Untold Billionaire love, subscribe and choose your next chapter on screen.